Okay. Well, it looks like we have a lot of folks from North Carolina, Missouri, Texas. I believe that's Ohio there as well. And Texas is leading. We have 9 people from Texas here today. So we love that you all have taken the time out of your very, very busy day to join us. And we're so excited that you're here, no matter where you're from. And we thank you all for participating in this interaction with us today. Just to remind you why you're here, you have signed up for this wonderful webinar that you've probably taken a look at our white paper. It is called From Automation to Transformation, AI Strategies for Personalized, Engaging, and Inclusive Online Course Design. So we're excited that you've joined us here today for this session. And we hope by the end of this presentation, and also from you reading the white paper, you've gained invaluable insights and all the things that you need to help you in your journey with your courses. Let's give a brief introduction on who we are. My name is Dr. Siobahn Grady. I am an associate professor and program director of information science and also director for the Institute for Artificial Intelligence and Emerging Research at North Carolina Central University. So happy to be here with you all. And Dr. Brooks, do you want to share who you are today with them, or I'm happy to do it for you?
Fine, that's fine. Thank you so much. I am so glad to be here with you all today and to join my amazing colleague, Dr. Grady. My name is Racheal Brooks, and I am the Director of Quality Assurance Implementation Solutions with Quality Matters.
Thank you so much. All right. So before we dive or delve into today's webinar, how would you describe your current attitude towards AI in course design? Let's just see how you all are feeling. And again, you just simply continue to use that same login that you used before, menti.com, and the code that is on the screen. And so we have about 41 participants. So we're looking to really get the engagement and feedback from you all today. And this is what we want from our learners. So let's make sure to really participate as well. Okay, looks like it's getting there. Some of you are probably still logging in. It looks like the majority that is here today is excited and curious. And so we're very, very happy to hear that. And also, it looks like 28% of you are cautiously optimistic, which is also a great place to be. It's great to be cautious and not jump too far into things until you know enough information about it. With 12% of you concerned about ethics. Ethics should always be a concern in everything that we do because we want to make sure that we're, being responsible with the work that we do. Some of you are not sure yet, and then some are skeptical or resistant. But either way it goes, the point is you're here because you are interested. And so it's great to know that many of you are excited, optimistic, and also concerned about ethics. So all are welcome here in this conversation. And it's really great to see that you are excited as we are about this work. So let's talk about how this conversation and dialogue will happen today. We have it broken up into 4 parts for you all. First, we're going to talk a little bit about AI strategies for online personalization, followed by amplifying online engagement with AI, AI for inclusive and accessible online learning, and then recommendations, right? We always want to put the things that we're learning into practice. And so you'll get those practical recommendations and strategies for implementation in your courses or perhaps at your institution. And so we're very excited about sharing this with you. So before we really dive deep into the conversation, in one word, what comes to mind when you think about AI in education? What is just one word that you think about? All right, and it's growing. And again, going to give everybody a few more moments to get logged in. And for those who are having trouble, remember, you can simply use the login at the top of the screen there, menti.com, and use the code that is right there on the screen. Sorry about that. Okay, so normally when we have a word cloud, things are just really kind of popping out at us here, but not so much this time, which means that there's not necessarily too many things that are emerging here, but the things that we can see that are emerging are the larger parts, which we see here: opportunity, innovation. Those are two of the larger parts here. Cheating, I know that's a challenge. Helpful, ethics, innovative, transformative, all of the things that you all have put here in this word cloud about when it comes to AI education. The truth is, these are all concerns, these are all thoughts, and all things that are of importance as we proceed in this AI revolution, if you will. So it's good that everyone is thinking about these things. I appreciate those who are cautious. I see the words like scary and other things there. It is a time to be cautious, but it is also a time to make sure that we're not getting left behind of something that's probably going to be here to stay. And so I appreciate all of the words here that everybody has outlined, because everything that you're thinking is honestly a value and worth noting as well. So when we think about the evolution of AI in online learning, let's just go down the road here. So back in 2016, if you've read the white paper, or even if you haven't, we've cited a work here from Lucan and Holmes, because this is where AI started with automating tasks like grading and plagiarism detection. And a lot of these tools, many of us have used for quite some time, and they are helpful. It progressed then to chatbots and smart scheduling. Chatbots are so helpful as well, where they can give us that feedback in real time, and we can actually have that, almost like talking to someone. Then in 2024, it moved on to sort of more adaptive learning and that predictive analytics. And that adaptive learning allows things to be sort of customizable on demand for learners. And so that's a great thing that we saw too. And now, and you've probably heard of natural language processing, but it's been used for quite some time. And also, it's been able to support student feedback. So natural language processing is happening all the time, such as things that you use in your Google search when you start typing out what you're looking for, and it can predict the rest of the text that you're putting in the box. Natural language processing is also what's helping a lot of these AI tools in the things that you see and use every day. Followed by generative AI, which really became a booming thing back in 2023 and still here now, which enables dynamic course content aligned to student performance. And in the future, what we don't have listed here, but there's something else that's on the horizon. It's truly in its infancy right now, but that's something called agentic AI. And we won't focus on that, but this is sort of the evolution of AI in online learning and what that journey has looked like for all of us. And we've seen this and we've been part of the journey, whether or not we realize that we have been. We'll next move into strategies for personalization in online learning, which is what it's all about. We all appreciate when things are personalized for us and our specific needs. So what we want to know now is, are you currently using any AI tools to assist you with your course design? Let us know. Is that a yes, no, not yet, occasionally, or just no? I'm not going to. And just remember, this is for interactive. There are no wrong answers here. All are welcome. Okay. So I love this because it's anonymous and you all can really be yourselves here. but it looks like the majority are yes, you're using it frequently, while there are others who are no, and I don't plan to. And again, there are no wrong answers here. Perhaps this conversation today will just give you things to think about, especially for those who know and don't plan to, might open your eyes to some new ways that might help or enhance the work that you already do. And for those who are already frequent users, that is our same hope as well. And thank you all so much for your participation. So when we think about personalized strategies at a glance, the great thing about AI, and it has so many promises, but it can help us scale those personalized instructions that we do. So when we think about online education, that's just that personalized learning that is going to help those learning experiences be tailored. And that's also what can not only help the learners, but can help us in the work that we already do. So it can, by having that tailored learning, it can enhance learner autonomy, their motivation, and also academic performance. And this is what we want. We want all of our learners to go out and be excellent at the things that we're teaching them in our courses. And we can do that with the assistance of AI. AI is not here, or the use that we're discussing within this white paper is not to take away from the work that you do. It is simply to enhance the work that you're already doing. It can provide those varied learning paces and pathways where it can be adjustable for those learners' interactions. And also we can help to encourage inclusion by adapting to all of our students or learners' unique identities, because we know that we're all different. We also learn differently. And so AI is a way that we can help meet the needs of our learners. And also we can build that foundational trust and relevance in digital spaces. The truth is, the students now are digital natives. So a lot of what they'll be doing from here forward, even if they're not someone in technology, they will have to interact with technology. And so AI is allowing us to give the personalization and ways to help our learners be successful. Also, there's something called that adaptive learning, which gives that real-time personalization. And again, this is what we were discussing before about that having it tailored to us. So it can help with tailoring content, pacing, that scaffolding based on the learner's behavior within that system, offering visual aids for the learner's preferences, giving that feedback. And again, this is not to augment the work that you do, but to enhance it as well. But a lot of this they can get in real time, which is so important to our learners, because a lot of times, and this is not just for our learners, but for us as well, we like to know, how we're doing on something in real time. And sometimes as professors, instructional designers, or whatever your role is, that may not always be possible. So the AI can also help us do that work quicker, but again, it's not to take away from what we do, only to enhance it. It can also assist with reducing cognitive overload with that just-in-time resources as well. So this is another way that AI can help give that personalization and that real-time adaptive learning for our learners. The other great additive is that predictive analytics for student success. We want to be able to identify learners who are disengaged with content early on. A lot of times we don't need to wait to midterms to identify these students. And so the predictive analytics that these tools provide give us a way to do that sooner and quicker, which is great because it can provide that early intervention, which is what we want to do. This also encourages that equitable support through data-informed outreach. And the research shows that it has improved success rates in STEM courses in particular. Additionally, it promotes continuous monitoring and timely feedback cycles. The goal of what all of us do is we want to empower our students, and one of the ways that we can empower them is by empowering ourselves through the use of this technology to get with them sooner rather than later if they need us. And a lot of times they don't always communicate that they need us. but these predictive analytics can help us get to them quicker to ensure their success. Also, AI case studies and examples to match learner demographics. So a lot of the work that we provided in the white paper, we have the research to show these different case studies that can also help to affirm the student identity through inclusive representation. It can also offer multilingual content. Some of you might teach courses where you need that, and accessibility focused design, which is what we always want to do. Make sure that everything is accessible for all learners to meet their needs. And also encouraging the learner choice in a format that meets their needs. And also it must be critically implemented to avoid bias and exclusion. And this is what we are using AI for when it comes to personalization for equity and identity, which is so critical in making sure that our learners feel that their voice, their views, and their thoughts matter. And so, again, encouraging the learner choice in a format that meets their needs, affirming their identity with these tools, and allowing or making sure that we're keeping a bias and exclusion in mind when we're taking a look at these tools and seeing how we might need to audit these tools for those issues. Now we're going to move into amplifying online engagement with AI. And when we think about amplifying our online student engagement, we want to make sure that the AI is supporting interactive content through real-time learner adaptation, that we're promoting that self-regulation for our learners with intelligent feedback loops, encouraging emotional and cognitive investment, again, tailoring those learning paths based on the interests and goals of our learners. And we want to also ensure that we're supporting higher order thinking through dynamic tasks. And artificial intelligence can allow us to amplify that student engagement, which is so wonderful. And as we get towards the end of this presentation, we'll have some tools in addition to the strategies to share with you that you might think about in helping you do a lot of this work that we discussed throughout the white paper. All right. So as you can see here, we have interactive learning experiences and also social engagement and collaboration. So let's focus on the interactive learning experiences. Before I jump into that, all of us know that interaction is key. This is how people stay engaged, don't get lost on things, and just also keep that momentum going. So when we think about the interactive learning experiences, we can have simulations and also other immersive scenarios to keep our learners engaged, offer those responsive hints, and contextual nudges, which is great, especially if they can't figure something out, just having that there for them where they can just press a button to get more information. Customizing difficulty based on the learner performance, which is great because a lot of times if you can make things more challenging for some learners, or make it less challenging based on their responses, that really gives them that customization and feedback that they need. And also it can help facilitate challenges, clarity, and enrichment. And overall, it will increase engagement and deep learning, which is what we want for our learners, that engagement, and for them to move to higher orders of thinking as they address the different problems that are presented towards them. When we think about social engagement and collaboration, we want to ensure that it's matching peers for collaboration based on their interests and goals. So we want to make sure that they can actually interact with their peers based on those interests and goals. Encourage peer feedback. We know that our learners learn from each other. So having that peer-to-peer feedback and balanced participation creates that social engagement in our courses. Also sending reminders that can help them continue to interact, especially through discussion boards, and then promoting a sense of learning community and belonging. With online courses, that's a big part of what all of us do. We want to ensure that our learners feel that they are a part of a community with our courses. And so we can use AI to monitor and guide that social presence and development, which is a good thing, especially when we're not always there to help facilitate that process. So again, that social engagement, that peer-to-peer interaction, and also having that interactive learning experience is something that artificial intelligence can help us do to ensure a more robust course. Again, not to take away from what we're doing, but to enhance the work that we already do. So when you think about course design, which area of course design do you think AI could help you with the most? Would that be creating some learning objectives, designing assessments, that personalized learning, content creation, or providing student feedback? And I'll give everyone just a few moments to log in your answer here. And while you all are continuing to log in your responses, and I know I've said it so many times, but I'm really saying this also for those who are very skeptical. A, excuse me, AI still requires human oversight. This is not to take away your job, but it can help you be more productive and efficient at what you already do extremely well. So for those, and I know some of you are still logging in your responses, but for those who need assistance with content creation, it can help you, but perhaps it won't help you in the ways that you fully hope, right? So what I mean by that is it may not do everything in a detailed way, but the truth is that's because you are the subject matter expert, but it can give you a starting point to assist you with your content creation. Also, the same thing with designing assessments or providing student feedback. It can give you a starting point, but it does not have all the knowledge, all the experience, all of the things that you have as the subject matter expert. So remember, it is just a tool to enhance the work that you are already doing. All right. I'm now going to pass it over to my amazing colleague, Dr. Brooks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Grady. And thank you all for sharing your questions and comments in the chat. I'm really excited because a lot of what you've been asking and a lot of what you have been contributing really ties into some of the information that we are going to be discussing in this next portion of our session. So we're going to kick this off with AI for inclusive and accessible online learning. Let's move to, thank you. If we can move to the next slide. Thank you. So I'd like to start us out with a quote from Melanie Parker. Melanie Parker is the vice president of Googler engagement at Google, and she is also Google's global chief diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. And she shared that artificial intelligence is transforming industries across the globe, and it's essential that AI technologies are developed with equity and inclusivity at their core. We're going to talk about why that is the case. When we personalize our learning and personalize the learning experiences for our students, as Dr. Grady had pointed out, it's imperative that we keep in mind that our students are not a monolith. Our students are not a group of clones. Everyone comes with their unique experiences and perspectives, their various preferences as it relates to engaging in the learning experience. But as instructors and as designers of educational experiences, it's not our responsibility, nor is it a reasonable expectation for us to anticipate every student who can come along, their unique needs, or how we can reach them. But what we can do is use tools such as AI to help us bridge that gap, to help us be able to provide those personalized experiences in ways that do not require us to overextend ourselves. So, what I would like to share with you is some information that Dr. Grady and I pulled together regarding how AI can do that. And these are ways that both she and I are incorporating in our own courses. So, as shared earlier, Dr. Grady is an associate professor, as well as not an associate professor, but I am an instructor and teach graduate research methods courses and statistics courses online. So these are some strategies that we and many of our colleagues also use. So one of the areas that I would like to highlight first is how AI can support universal design for learning. It helps us to generate alternative text, captions, and transcripts. There are many times I'm sure that many of you have experienced where, as you are incorporating images into your courses and you are trying to come up with alternative text that can effectively communicate what is in the image, you can use AI to support you in generating that descriptive text to ensure that readers who have visual impairments or learners who have visual impairments are able to still glean that information from what is presented. It can allow you to adapt content to support your learners who are neurodiverse, learners who have ADHD or dyslexia, as well as multilingual learners. Learners who are engaged in education in a language that is not their native language may need additional supports as they are integrating into the educational experience in that particular language. And AI can help you come up with ideas, tools, and resources to use to support your learners. You don't have to create it for yourself. It helps to simplify language and enhances comprehension. It also enables interface customization for neurodiverse learners. So there are a number of tools that are available where you can use AI and you can provide it to your students to where they can engage with the online space and modify it in ways that meet their needs. It can also help us as we are working to ensure our compliance with various legal and statutory expectations around accessibility. So let's move on to the next slide. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you asked in the chat. We are later in the session, we're going to provide you a list of example tools. Now, mind you, these tools are not, this is not any endorsement of these tools, but these are just some examples of a variety of tools that are available that you can use to do the various tasks that we are recommending, not only in the white paper, but in our conversation today. So hold tight just a bit and we'll be glad to share those with you. We can also use AI to help us reduce bias generation in content. It's important to remember that AI, honestly, is only as good as the data that it's trained on. So if in providing certain types of data into these systems, what can happen is the output can unintentionally, and hopefully not intentionally, include various biases. For example, if if there is a certain AI tool that is meant to provide students with an adaptive learning experience as they are engaging in study around microbiology. And the type of information that's provided to the AI tool regarding the type of learner that they're working with does not include information or does not prompt it to consider learners who may be visually impaired, learners who may be hearing impaired, learners who may be have autism spectrum disorder. What is generated then does not, or very likely will not, include considerations for learners who have those lived experiences. And so it's important for us to keep in mind how, especially those of us who are contributing to providing information to help these tools learn about our students, that we are giving information and context that will allow it to create content that does take these considerations in mind. I will share you, although I am not a prompt engineer, by any stretch of the imagination, aside from being a very enthusiastic user. When I generate prompts for AI, specifically for my courses, I take into consideration the types of students who would take my class, who have taken my classes, and I ask it to help me create activities that could be modified. What would be a modification of an activity that takes into account the needs of a learner who has low or no vision? What are some strategies that I can incorporate to help support students in my class who may have a hearing impairment or who may need additional support as it relates to executive functioning skills, setting goals, and working toward meeting those goals? And so I use AI kind of as a personal assistant to help me ensure that as I am constructing a learning experience for my students, I am providing ways in which all of my learners can be supported. So, one of the things that we can also do is to take into account the importance of conducting audits. We want to make sure that we are auditing the use of these tools, not only to ensure accessibility, but also to reduce bias. And we're going to give you some examples of tools that you can use to do exactly that. We want to make sure that the outputs that are being created do not perpetuate stereotypes. I navigate the world in my very own personal lived experience. But because of that, I do not assume that I see the world as others do. And so I like to use AI to help me consider what are the perspectives that I'm missing? What do I not see? How is what I have created? How might this be misinterpreted? Could it be misinterpreted? Am I, in fact, communicating the message that I want to communicate to not only support my learners with content that will assist them, but also validates them and their unique lived experiences as they are engaging in the learning community? And so a colleague shared in the chat earlier, how does AI support a sense of community? And we don't want to dip into that murky space, that gray area of kind of pseudo social community created through AI. But what's important is as we are thinking about how we're creating community, again, we're using AI as a tool to help us create a robust sense of community. We're using it to help us consider things that maybe we have not taken into account. So we're not giving it the responsibility of creating community for us. We are using it to help us enhance our own process of creating community for our students. We want to make sure that we are reviewing our content for inclusivity and representation. And it's important to also think about, since we are feeding into the system, these AI systems, data that helps us to then create outputs that we want to share with our students, we want to be mindful. What are these data sets that we are providing? Are they diversified? Do they help us to ensure that what our students are engaging with, in fact, is representative? And you are not expected to know how to do that entirely on your own. And even for those of you who are experts, I'm sure many of you utilize the strategy of connecting with others. Ask questions of your peers and other stakeholders. Is this in fact representative? So that you are continuously improving on the data that's being provided. And of course, we want to make sure that we are, once we receive these outputs, before we provide them to our students, that we are in fact verifying that they do promote equity. So let's move to the next slide. So here are some ethical considerations that we want to take into account when it relates to AI use. We want to inform our students of how and when AI is used. It is a good practice in our various syllabi or when we're communicating our expectations to our students around how we expect them to utilize AI and to what degree, but that we are also openly communicating to our students how we are using AI. I'll share with you just in this recent semester, in teaching, as I had mentioned, I teach graduate statistics and research methods. One of the interaction components in my course that I use often is having students engage in discussions. Now, I don't know. I hope this is not the case for anyone else, but I will put myself out there. My discussions were getting a little bland, they were getting a little boring. And so I decided to use AI to help liven up the discussions. I wanted my students to be able to take what they were learning and practically apply it to situations that they would encounter in their future professions. So I asked AI, my assistant, I call her Zora. I asked Zora, help me to come up with discussion questions that allow my students to consider what we are learning and to be able to apply them to potential scenarios. I want to encourage them to think about scenarios that they may encounter. I want to create questions, open ended questions that allow them to contribute their thoughts based on their own lived experiences and their professions. And I want to ensure that these questions still build off of the learning objectives, the course level learning objectives, and the specific objectives that we have for the module that we're working on. And so, in providing that and providing previous questions that I had created, I was able to work with my AI assistant to come up with robust discussion questions. And this has been one of the most engaging conversations that has happened in teaching these courses over a number of years. I plan to continuously improve, but it's a wonderful way to think about how we are incorporating these tools. Now, one of the things that I did was I was very mindful of communicating to my students that I am using AI to help create questions and my rationale as to why I am doing so. I wanted to lead by example by being transparent with my students and showing them how they could use it as a tool, not as a replacement. We want to make sure that we are verifying compliance with data privacy laws. And of course, this is going to be different depending on your state, on your institution, on your country. And so I encourage you to reach out to your institution and to find out what are the expectations around privacy, around accessibility, to ensure that however you are incorporating AI, that you are making sure that you are in compliance. We want to provide opt-out options when feasible. Sometimes we want to make sure that our students know that this is optional. You do not have to use AI. And if you would prefer that certain assignments, or especially if you are using AI to help grade assignments, some students may be open to it. Others, just as many of you may be wary about using AI, some students may be wary about AI being utilized to evaluate their work. So communicate to your students how you plan to use it. And if possible, let them know that they have the option to opt out and to have only human interaction when it comes to evaluation. We want to make sure that we're avoiding AI over surveillance and misuse. So it's important to be cautious, as Dr. Grady had shared, but we also want to be mindful that those AI plagiarism detectors are not 100% guaranteed. It looks for many of these detectors look for certain patterns in language use. I am again, I will volunteer myself. I have been flagged and I've tested it on myself. I have a tendency to write in a certain way that gets flagged by AI because of how I use language. AI also tends to flag, there are high, and research has shown that there are high instances of AI incorrectly flagging language written by individuals, for example, English language use written by individuals who are not native English speakers, because of how structured and how close to certain linguistic patterns individuals who happen to be non-native speakers may use as learners of the language. Spanish is my second language. I am a Spanish instructor. I'm fluent in the language. And so I have a tendency, especially when I write in Spanish, for that to be the case because of my technical background in utilizing Spanish, the Spanish language. So it's important for us to be mindful of that and to, again, ensure that we are incorporating that human element as we are considering the use of AI. And we want to maintain transparency around AI decision-making processes. So how AI is used. Ask the questions, even when your institution is vetting possible AI tools. Contact the companies and ask them, how are decisions made? How are these tools coming to the point where they are generating outputs? And they should be able to answer those questions for you. And based on your institutional threshold for what you will and will not tolerate, that is how you are going to make decisions around what tools you want to incorporate and which ones you should probably leave behind. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, so moving on. Oh, and I see I have a challenge in the chat. Jorge, I will be glad to, to do that for you later on. Hold on after the webinar is over and I'll be glad to do so. Okay, so recommendations and practical strategies for educators. We know this is also something that many of you joined the webinar today for. You want to know, what can you do? How can you take this and move forward? So we will be glad to give you a sample of some of the ways that you can incorporate AI, as well as some tools that you can use to support you. So let's go on to this next slide. What you will see here is first just a question. We want to know, how have you used AI tools to align your course with QM standards? Okay, how have you done so? And if so, how? I'm going to give you just a moment to go ahead and answer that. Okay, I appreciate the honesty. Some of you have not. Okay.
And Dr. Brooks, you have them intrigued now in the
I
chat.
do have them intrigued. Okay, so for our later webinar colleagues, just the questions are coming through about how did I learn Spanish. I've always been very interested in the Spanish language and started learning when I was very young. I took it in high school, majored in college. I have a master's in Spanish literature. And so a lot of my professional work has been primarily in the Spanish language. I do, you know what, great plug for Quality Matters Consulting. So I also, and we'll share a little bit about this as we talk about the support that can be provided to you, but through QM Consulting, I work with institutions in the United States, in Latin America, and the Caribbean as it relates to their use and implementation, not only of Quality Matters, but just engagement in online learning. And so this is a service that is provided in English as well as Spanish. Most recently, I traveled to Chile and provided consulting to colleagues at a premier institution in Chile, entirely in Spanish. And so if that is something you're interested in, I will be more than happy to support. Es un privilegio de hacerlo para ustedes. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so let's see. There are a number of examples. Let's see. Using custom chatbots to assist with reviewing courses, having AI to create assignments to compare healthcare from other countries to the US. That's incredibly impressive. Aligning assignments and course objectives, fantastic. And using it to craft learning objectives, creating robust assessments, fantastic. Thank you, Bethany, for sharing in the chat about QM Consulting for those of you who are interested. And for those of you joining the webinar later, we of course will make sure that you have information about that as well. Okay, wonderful. So let's move on to the next slide because we're going to delve deeper into a lot of the examples that you had provided. Now, what you see here on the screen, and again, you will receive this information after the webinar, so do not feel slighted if you aren't able to capture everything just now. I do want to be mindful of the time so that we have an opportunity to address questions. But what we have here are just some examples of practical strategies for AI use in online learning. And underneath each strategy, you will note that there is an alignment to various specific review standards that are provided through the Quality Matters Higher Education Rubric 7th edition, as well as different services and resources that are provided through Quality Matters that can support you and your institution in engaging in these practical strategies. So as it relates to quality design strategies, we want to make sure that we're starting with measurable objectives and we are aligning our content. AI is a great tool to, one, make sure that your objectives are measurable. We want to stay away from those ambiguous terms such as students will understand or students will learn. We want to get to the core of it. how will we know that they have understood? How will we know that they have learned or that they know something or that they've gained an appreciation? We can feed those not necessarily measurable learning objectives, whether they're at the course level or the module level learning objectives, into an AI system such as ChatGPT, Claude AI, and ask it, let it know, hey, I know that this objective is not measurable. Can you help me create some potential or revise this in a way that it is measurable, that will allow me not only to ensure that I can measure whether or not a student has achieved it, but could you also provide me some examples of assessments, ways in which I can, in fact, measure it? Can you help me create a rubric so that I can measure the degree to which they have achieved this objective? AI is a wonderful tool to help us create multimodal content. So, whether it's images or videos, maybe it is a simulated podcast, or even helping us to locate them. AI can help us search the internet for resources that may be available that we can incorporate into our courses. It helps us to ensure accessibility through automated checks and user testing, which is a great way to meet a variety of specific review standards in General Standard 8, accessibility and usability, when we're talking about accessible text, video, multimedia, images. It's a wonderful tool to do so. It can help us personalize based on learner needs and not assumptions that we make about our learners' needs. And this goes back to really seeing our students for who they are and what they bring to the table. You can use this in collaboration with an introductory discussion that you may have students engage in, or an introductory activity where they share about themselves and communicate to your students transparently how you're going to use this information. But you can provide, some generic details about your students. We don't want to give specifics about our students because, of course, we want to protect student privacy, but to help create scenarios that are unique to your roster of students in a given term. This is a great way to personalize the experience so that it is relevant and they see themselves in the activities in which they are engaged throughout the term. We also want to make sure, again, that we are explaining why AI is used in our courses and how it supports the learning goals. This specifically ties to specific review standard 6.1, where we are talking about, we're looking at how the tools that are used in the course align with the course level objectives, as well as those module level objectives. As it relates to ethical delivery, we want to communicate how AI is used in our syllabi and in orientations. We want to balance that feedback, not only what is automated, but specifically balance it with instructor feedback. We want to maintain instructor presence, which is directly tied to specific review standard 5.3, communicating how we plan to engage as instructors. For those of you who are instructional designers or learning experience designers, and you are working with faculty in the creation of courses, or maybe at your institution, you are responsible for creating courses that are provided to faculty. You want to offer guidance as to how faculty can use these tools, use AI tools to help them enhance their instructor presence, not to replace their instructor presence. We want to monitor the effectiveness of AI and make sure we are gathering feedback from our students. What better way to find out how our students are being supported than to ask them themselves? We want to know, is this helpful? Or in what ways can this be more helpful for you? We want to prioritize empathy, mentorship, and connection, as well as make sure that high stakes decisions remain human-led. Okay, now I want to, before we move on to the next slide, briefly, I want to share some institutional actions. And many of these you will find support through Quality Matters professional development. We provide support through consulting through Quality Matters, and working with your institutional leaders and various individuals in different units as it relates to providing guidance on AI literacy and ethics. You want to engage cross-departmental teams so that they have a chance to collaboratively come up with what does ethical oversight of AI look like at your institution. Establish policies not only around the use of AI, but specifically how do you ensure that you are minimizing instances of bias. We want to monitor impacts through disaggregating student data so that we understand how different student populations are being affected. And we want to also incorporate AI use in helping institutions to meet their missions as well as promote equity amongst their learners. Now let's move on to our next slide. And in the next two slides, very briefly, we are going to be highlighting some of the tools that can help you do this. Again, these tools are not, this is not an endorsement, and this is not an exhaustive list, but you can use various tools such as CuraPod, CourseTune, and Sana Labs to help with brainstorming or ideating lessons aligned with quality standards. There are tools that can help you auto-generate accessible presentation-ready modules or content such as Gamma or Sonocent. Audio Note Taker is a wonderful tool. You can promote data privacy and transparency in the use of AI decision-making with tools such as Data Robot or Consent Kit. Drafting objectives, as I had mentioned earlier, or revising objectives, rubrics, as well as outlines can be done with tools like ChatGPT or Claude. You can use Canva, one of my favorite tools, but Canva Magic Design to help design course visuals with AI suggestions. On the next page, we have some additional tools that you can use, as well as the QM specific review standards to which they align. Synthesia is a great tool to help generate avatar-based video lectures with captions. Khanmigo, which is provided through Khan Academy, can offer an AI coach for guided practice, which is a great way to support learner interaction and provide them feedback opportunities. You can use Edpuzzle, which uses AI, as well as H5P interactive content tool to enhance videos and include automated questions with feedback. If you want to ensure that you are promoting fairness or reducing bias in the online learning space, use AI tools like Diversity AI or Fair Learn, which is available through Microsoft. You can build gamified quizzes from lessons in seconds using Quizzes AI, as well as you see, Mentimeter, one of our favorite tools. And as we wrap up, we'd like to share with you some recommended next steps. We know many of you are on various portions of your journey with incorporating AI. And so here are some easy next steps that you can consider. For those of you who are just starting out, start small. You do not have to solve all of the world's problems, and you are not expected to be an AI expert if you are still teetering on, not quite sure, or maybe at the start of the session, hopefully no longer, but at the start of the session, maybe you were a little averse to using AI. Start small. Try out one AI tool with a low stakes activity. Make sure that you are prioritizing accessibility and ethical alignment. We encourage you, for those of you who are a little more excited, or maybe you're just a little more curious, collaborate with your instructional design teams or information technology teams at your institutions, who very likely will have more information to support you. Collect student feedback on AI-enhanced elements. Anything worth doing is worth assessing. So we encourage you, as you are engaging and utilizing AI, ask your students about its effectiveness, excuse me, and how well they feel it supports their learning. Pardon me. And learn from peers. Learn from colleagues. Join a professional learning community and help explore amongst colleagues AI use in teaching. So we're going to wrap this up. Wonderful. We're going to wrap this up with another question for you. After our conversation today, we would love to hear, what support do you most need from your institution and from Quality Matters to integrate AI into your course design? Are you interested in more training and workshops, clear ethical guidelines? Maybe you want to know more about AI tools. How about technical support, peer collaboration opportunities? Or would you like to connect with QM Consulting and have targeted support for your institution? Excellent. Oh, I'm so glad to see. It looks like many of you are really excited about training and workshops, clear ethical guidelines. Ooh, even consulting. Okay, well, you know who to contact. Excellent. And pardon me. So yes, what we want you to know, as we've shared in the chat earlier, there are a number of resources and opportunities that are coming your way, including an AI summer camp provided by Quality Matters. You will receive lots of information in the follow-up email, but we encourage you to keep in touch. And let's see, we have just a few moments. Dr. Grady, would you like to share more about the work that you are doing?
Oh, yes, I would. And I want to answer some of the questions because I know time is of the essence. So I see some of you. Let me just start with the most recent question, which is about faculty buy-in. Let me affirm that if you're not getting faculty buy-in, you are normal. Okay, we're in academia. We know that things move extremely slow. And unfortunately, adoption of such a tool as this is going to require probably a top-down approach. And so make sure your leaders at your institution are heavily involved in the process in implementation and adoption of these tools. That is so critical. The work that we're doing at North Carolina Central University, I do have my leaders backing, which is extremely helpful. I want to address a couple other things because again, I know the time is running out, so I'm going to try to talk fast. But cheating, that's always at the forefront of everybody's mind, but I just want to affirm that cheating has been happening since before AI. It will not stop. Unfortunately, we do just have some folks who just choose to integrity is just not their thing. And so we have to find new ways to do what we do better and to capture that type of behavior. Someone asked a question also about cognitive offload. This is where we have to think about how we share the opportunity for AI with our learners, right? So we want them to know that, again, this is not to segment their learning, that this is a tool that can assist, and there'll have to be new ways in which you have to think about ways to get them to critically think. And so some of that might be a slow pilot or adoption of AI into your course. But I just want to get everybody to thinking for just one moment, because I know some people probably feel that AI is a fad or something of that nature. This revolution is not new. I don't know the specifics of who's here in the room, but think about how we're here today. This is through the internet. And there was a time, once upon a time, without giving my age or what age group I'm a part of, where online sources were not accepted, were not reputable. And look at where we are today. We now are able to get journals online. We don't necessarily have to go physically into the library and things of that nature. So this is a similar situation. These tools are not necessarily going anywhere. AI has been around for quite some time. We now have to reimagine the way that we do things. And so it's an opportunity for us to continue to have a growth mindset and also grow with our learners as well. So I say that to the cognitive offload question. You're going to have to do some more reinforcement with the learners and the type of assignments that you do so that the critical thinking is there. And perhaps you have them share with you the ways in which they are using the technology. Also do a slow integration of the tools in your course. And again, for the question about copy and paste, I think this is an opportunity where we have to, again, ask questions where we force our learners to come to the forefront with how they're using the technology or if it's accepted. I think this is also an opportunity where we have to be honest in the ways that we are using the technology for our course as well. I don't think that we should have the mindset that we can use it, but they can't. So this is, again, an opportunity for us to think, grow, and learn together and have opportunities to facilitate new types of learning experiences. So I say all that to say thank you all so much for joining us. We're happy to address other questions. I see the last question about personalization. Again, when you're using these tools, please don't put any personal identifiable information. One of the downsides to a lot of these tools is that the free versions do not have all the capabilities that you need. So, I think a challenge is the cost. But if your institution is willing to make the investments, or your school or department, and you're using these tools, I say give them a try. And also, certainly last but not least, this gives us new opportunities to research, to learn about how what we're doing is impacting our learners or impacting us as instructional designers, faculty members, administrators. We're all in a movement right now that we can certainly either take part of and take charge, or we can choose to be behind. But either way it goes, as I was trying to state with the movement of the internet, we know that technology just keeps moving forward. So I think this is an opportunity for us to keep being on that train and not get left behind. Thank you all so much for joining us today. If you have additional questions, contact us. I am leading the AI Institute at my university, and I'm happy to share any insights that I have with you from the work that I'm doing there as well. And you already know to contact Dr. Brooks for that strategic consulting.
Thank you so much, Dr. Grady and Dr. Brooks. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at this time.